With comedy, I am your host, the real deal Joel Davis, known as Comedian Joel Davis, former professional wrestler and stand-up comedian, podcaster, and promoter. And I have tonight a very special guest coming out of the state of Connecticut. He is not only a stand-up comedian, but he also is a host at a comedy club. His main comedy club is home comedy club, and that's the New York Comedy Club in Stamford, Connecticut. I met this gentleman back last August of 2025, and a perfect gentleman from the word go, and very talented. And I am happy to bring him to Wrestling with Comedy here tonight. He's a young upstart. He's got a bright future. You better wear your shades around this guy because it's very bright. He's also, like I said, working with the New York Comedy Club in Stamford, Connecticut, and this is episode number 22. He's also worked the Fairfield Comedy Club. He's been on numerous radio shows and podcasts. There's also the Monday night mics, the open mics, the comedy and music variety mics. You compete for the cash, the comedy jackpot. This particular guest tonight has a lot to do with what's going on over there at the New York Comedy Club in Stamford, Connecticut. Let's give a warm welcome. Let's welcome to the show here tonight, folks, Colin Pasquarella.
There you go. Hey, welcome. It's good to be here. How you doing?
Right on, brother. I just want to make sure I got that name right, bro.
Hey, you close enough.
Close enough. Yeah, it's a tough name.
Enough.
Yeah, man. All the respect for you. I was concentrating on the first name too. I didn't want to pronounce it Colin, so I know it's Colin.
I've had that. Yeah, I've had that too. I've had people call me colon or colon, like your liver or whatever it is.
That's right.
I've had that. People screw up my last name. They somehow find a way to screw up my first name. Don't worry.
And you know what? And you're so laid back about it. And this is just what I remember about you.
Yeah.
And right off the bat, brother, you got Greg Corbiel saying hello, Uncle Colin. Uncle Colin. I know you got a nephew named Greg. I guess saying.
I don't have a nephew named Greg, but I'll gladly go by Unc.
Okay, well, there you go. Someone else says, hello, Teresa. I don't know. That's for somebody else, I guess. And then you got Dop3, Rent 864. He said, let's get it. So,
let's get it.
So welcome to the show tonight. We're live tonight here at Wrestling with Comedy. Very special guest. Thank you for joining us here tonight. Colin Pasquarella is here on episode number 22. He's a stand-up comedian. He is a host basically he hosts the shows, a lot of the shows over there at the New York Comedy Club in Stamford, Connecticut. Colin, let's start up with it right away. I'd like to know, when was your first booking in stand-up comedy, and when was it, and where was it, and for who?
First booking. That was probably, you know what, I'll say it was a spot in Norwalk, Connecticut. It went by like our house. It was like a basement. That when I first started, it was like a really nice room. It was like a small room. It was the basement. There was like this restaurant bar that had a basement space that was like a good event space, and it was just like built for comedy. Like it had like a small stage, and you could fit in like a good amount of people. And just like even if you had 20 people, like the energy was just so like infectious in there that like it was such a fun room. And COVID took it away from us, unfortunately. And then, I had to go from there and got involved in Fairfield once, things started opening up again. And then got into Stamford, and it's been that since. And it's been quite a journey.
I bet it has, brother. And,
Yeah.
You're really good at what you do, and
Hey.
you're welcome, bro. And I'm just being honest about it. We're going to talk about when you and I met and actually worked and shared the stage one night back in August. We're going to talk about that definitely. So you basically, when you started, what year was that? Was that right before 2019?
Yeah, it was 2019. It was like right after I got out of college. I did like studying of finance and accounting or whatever, and got out and was like, I don't want to do this, and I had to do the job. But I started getting into stand-up comedy as I had a job, luckily out of college, and just kind of was able to manage both, and just been going on ever since.
Oh, that's so cool, brother. That's so
Yeah.
cool. You moved your way up, and definitely interested in the viewers and listeners interested on how you made your way up. And honestly, Colin, let's be honest with everybody out there, bro. Let's keep it real on Wrestle with Comedy podcast. It's not easy to get to where you are right now. I mean, you got to work your way up. You're working around the comedy clubs. I'm
Yeah,
sure. I'm sure. Let me ask you this: working in the comedy club, is that a big advantage of being a comedian now?
definitely. I mean, I think it's opened a lot of doors, and got me in touch with people. And it's been like it's definitely very helpful to be involved, because I can always just say to them, hey, like, I am a comic, but I'm working here to help out and just be around comedy, and whenever you guys want to do open mics, whenever you want to do this, like, just I'm around. So just kind of being able to be in that ear, and then when those things started coming and those opportunities started building, I was just kind of proximity, and also working my way up, not just proximity, but I was putting the work in constantly, and then when it came time for those opportunities to be present, I was ready and able to just jump right in and take advantage of it. So that was combination of keeping your head down and working hard and being in the right environment, and luckily having people who run New York Comedy Club come into Connecticut and bring something special here. So just it is a lot about work, and it is a lot about putting yourself in the right place. So that combination has been huge, and especially being in Connecticut, like, where I'm at, it's the southern part that it's so easy to travel into New York City, by car, by train, any way I want, and I can take advantage of those, going out there as well. So that's been huge.
Yeah, I bet it has been huge, and thank you for explaining that in detail for the viewers and
Yeah,
listeners here today. But brother, let me tell you something, brother. It does go. Let's be honest. I mean, you're being a little modest. You also are really a gentleman. You are a gentleman, and you know how to talk to people. I remember when I first met you.
yeah.
You're a gentleman about it, and you were like very professional is what I'm looking for, and people notice what you've done. Growing up, did you have any favorite comedians? That anybody inspired you?
Um, I mean, I would just remember, like, I was just always into, like, I was a kid that grew up on, like, SpongeBob, and, like, I would turn on Comedy Central was, like, in its heyday, like, not like, it was in, like, the early mid 2000s, like, you would just turn on, they would just have stand-up presents, they would have so many different comics coming up. So it wasn't like any one specific thing. It was just seeing, how much comedy was present, being able to, like, tune into it, like, that just, like, always had my attention, of like people that were just telling stories or just funny things that were on TV, that just was always the biggest influence in my world.
Awesome. That's
Yeah,
great. Let's talk a little bit about how you and I met. You know, we brought it up a couple times already on the podcast. If you just joined
yeah,
us, this is Colin Pasquarella. He's a stand-up comedian. He's also basically he calls his home club the comedy club in Stamford, Connecticut, New York Comedy Club in Stamford, Connecticut. You can find him out there on many of the shows. There's a lot going on out that way, and let's get right to it. The viewers and listeners are going to want to find this interesting, I'm sure. Back in August 14, 2025 is when I met you. The headline of that night was Kill Tony Bucket Pull Golden Ticket winner, Funny Charlie Mack. And I
yeah.
ended up getting a guest spot, if you remember right. And I was thinking about this. I had showed up with another comedian hours before the show. And I believe I spoke to you at first, and you were basically managing or hosting the building. I think it was you.
Yeah, like I'll be there during the day and just like answer phone calls and like answer emails from like customers and all that stuff, and like take deliveries. So like I'm there, a good amount during the week, and yeah, you guys came by early, and we were just talking it up, and then you guys came in and it was the showtime, and it was just I'm so used to being there that it does feel like home to me. So it's easy to just kind of let people in and be like, "Oh, cool! Like this is yeah, you're part of it. Let's hang out, or whatever you got to do, you got to do."
Yeah, man. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. That's just something that I won't forget. Just the way you welcomed me, and you welcomed a female comedian who went up that way named Julie Wesner, and we were both there.
Yeah.
You were very welcoming to both of us, and you know what? It goes a long way, brother. And don't ever forget something. You're a young man. I've been around a while myself in business, entertainment business. I started entertainment in 1991, probably before you. Actually, definitely before you were born. 1991, I stepped into professional wrestling, which is entertainment, sports entertainment. So I've been around, and you know, your demeanor and the way you bring yourself as, you know, and present yourself, you know, never change, bro, because that's going to help you in the future. This is Colin Pasquarella. I'm trying to get his name right, folks. We got some people saying in. We got hello from Cameron DeWan from Los Angeles, California, saying hello to you. I don't know if you know Cameron, but he's a great comedian. He's coming up on a future show.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. And so do you have some favorite clubs? I know Stamford, Connecticut, the New York Comedy Club, but can you tell us about some, real quick, it's going to be a two-part question, brother. Can you tell us about some of your favorite clubs that you've worked on, and advice for anybody that always dreamed of being a comedian or wants to start up?
I mean, my experience with clubs is like kind of limited. It is like there was the Fairfield spot that was a lot of fun because it was just kind of like a pop-up thing. We would just take a hotel lobby and we would just move all these things around and put a stage in the lobby. And
wow. Yeah.
It was fun. It was ran by the same people that run the New York Comedy Club, so we would get a lot of those headliners, and we would just like hang out, and it was like a very relaxed. There was like just, it was bring your own beer, just buy a ticket, sit down and drink, and then like we would be setting up. Sometimes we'd get on the shows, and it was just a very relaxed, like there's not like there's an organization behind it, but like just have fun. It's a comedy show. So that was always like a great experience. There's not a lot of comedy clubs in Connecticut. So it's just, a lot of it is like, just a bar or like just a place that has like an event space. So it's just, I don't have too much with clubs, unfortunately.
That's no problem, brother. I got you, but you're an honest individual, and you're sharing your knowledge, and that's what the podcast here is all about. But would you give any advice? Like, do you suggest obviously open mics for someone starting off? Obviously, an open mic would have to be where you'd start.
Yeah, of course. It's an open mic is where everybody starts. Nobody just, I mean, unless you're like a social media star, nobody just gets on stage.
Exactly.
30 minutes. Yeah, everybody, if you're interested, just find whatever's find either a club in your area, or just like you might have to like kind of look for just general open mics in your area. And just my advice is, the first time you go, just go and just be there. Don't be trying to do anything. Like, don't even try and get up. Just go to an open mic and just experience it and see what it's like. Because you'll be very nervous about going up and doing comedy. So just go there and be there and put no stakes into it at first. And then when you feel like, okay, I've seen an open mic, I know what this is about. I have my stuff that I can see and do, and now I'm going to try it. So that's always my thing, is I'm very patient with my approach, which has its positives and also its negatives. But I think, if you're somebody, if you feel the nerves about doing comedy and you're jittery and you're excited and you don't know what's going on, just go to a place, see what an open mic is, and then go from there. That's kind of what I think is like the best approach. I've seen so many people do that. I went to an open mic once. I tried it, completely like ruined it, and then I went to an open mic again. I watched, and then the next week I went up, and that was like so much better for me, my confidence, and just my general stage presence.
That's great advice, and I appreciate that, and our listeners and viewers, I'm sure, appreciate that. Colin, that's great, solid advice and suggestions to anyone who's inspiring to get on stage and give it a shot. Now, for you, let's talk about you, because the show is all about you tonight. Let's talk about this, brother. Thinking about, not thinking about it, but actually looking into what you've done. You actually, but as far as I can see here, is that you had a chaotic upbringing. You were the youngest child in the family. family, Italian and Colombian family. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, yeah. What my dad's side's the Italian, my mom's side's the Colombian, um, and so like it's just two sides of absolute craziness. Everybody knows Italians won't shut up, and Colombians have their own deal. I guess I don't know what to say. The Colombian didn't pass down as it's still in my genetics, but it didn't like pass down culturally as much. Sorry, I got if you guys can hear that.
No, brother, that's fine. This is live. Live, anything can
Yeah.
happen. But no, so basically, having a chaotic upbringing doesn't necessarily nothing to do with being negative. I mean, it's just it's a loving family, I'm sure. But it's helped you in comedy. Let's be honest. I was just saying this the other day. It's really quick, brother. I was saying this on one of the other podcasts recently, and it's so true. All comedians, 90% of them, at least 9 out of 10 comedians, have some kind of an interest in lifestyle or life that they grew up, and that's what brings their comedy to life,
Yeah.
And then
One of the things like I say is that it was like going like when we had like holidays and we had like family things, like when we had to go all about and like for Christmas we had to go. We had to go to church, then we had to go to, my grandfather's, then we had to go to church the next morning, then we had to go to my grandmother's, then we had to go to my aunt's, and we had to go the next day, we had to go to another aunt. It was like I describe it as like a trip through Narnia. Like that was like going for like any family event. Like it was just like we had to go left, right, up, down, like and it didn't stop for like, a whole week.
that's hilarious, man.
It's like, you feel like you've aged like 40 years by going through one Christmas. So
That's funny.
out of like running around and people you talk to, it was just like you just slept for like 3 days later. You didn't even play with anything. You're just like, I got nothing.
That's hilarious, but yeah, big family. This is great. Again, folks, if you just joined us, you got a great comedian right here. He's a comedian. He's one of those comedians that don't even try to be funny. He's a funny guy. He's also a professional. He's very classy. He's very respectful. He's out of the state of Connecticut. He's working. His home club is the New York Comedy Club in Stamford, Connecticut. Shout out to that club. It's a great club. I had the privilege to work one night over there, and I can't wait to get back sometime down in the future.
Yeah.
And this is Colin Pasquarella, and we're trying to keep the name as best as we can. Colin, let me ask you something, brother. I'm looking at some of my notes here. You had something. You were on a television show or some kind of a podcast with a guest on Chaz and AJ. Was that workplace injuries and dumbass news?
Yeah, they do dumbass news as one of their segments. They're like they're very local radio station, but they're like huge. Like everybody kind of like knew them. They're just like one of the mainstays. They're like rock and roll, is the main like kind of genre of their like what they play, and then also like they just have this morning show that they've been running for. I wanted to say they said over 20 years. I think also like 30 years. They're definitely in 20 years. I think 30-ish, like late,
Yeah.
they've been around.
Like more years than you've been alive.
Yeah. I think possibly. I think my dad like brought it up that he was like, yeah, they've been on for like, through the 90s and all that.
Yeah, man. So you've done a lot. Let's be honest. I mean, you broke it in 2019. You had the little hiatus in the COVID time, and you came back stronger than ever. And you like I said, we said earlier in the podcast, you're not only a comedian, but you're also a host. I mean, you work as staff. If I got this correct, I don't know if you're the manager or whatever you might do, but you're still
manager. Or like answer phone and email, like anything besides pretty much managing. I'm like a Swiss Army knife. I'll do cleanup. I'll do checking in people. I'll host for a show. I'll during the day I'll stock deliveries and all that stuff. Just anything besides managing.
Awesome, brother. Let me ask you a question, brother, man.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in the next year in stand-up comedy? Interesting question. I'd like to ask you.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you take it serious. I know you do, man.
Yeah, I mean, I take it serious, but I don't put like any like not like I don't put like too many labels or goals. It's just like I just feel like if I gotta push for something, I'll push for it. But I don't really push out like, oh, in a year I'll do this, in a year I'll do that. It's just more like, hey, like whatever, whatever I feel like is the next step for me to take. Like I'll just push myself to it. Like getting out into the city more is something that I'd like to do. Is start doing a little bit more out like in New York City, getting out there and just getting out and doing more spots. I do a good amount with the club, and I just want to start branching out like a little bit more and having more that I can, point to and more shows that I can get on and just keep pushing. That's what it comes down to. I don't have really a spot where I'll be in a year, but, just been seeing those opportunities that, starting to feel more and more attainable that I'm like, all right, I'll start hitting up people and start seeing, where I can go with this.
What a great answer! What a great answer! That was really a great answer, and this gentleman here, very talented, also very modest. He's saying it the way it is now. You're living in Connecticut right now. How far are you from New York City for traveling? Were you born in Connecticut?
Yeah, I was born in Connecticut. I was raised in like the Fairfield County area. Um, so like always close to the city. And yeah, like I could take it, it depends when I leave during the day, but car ride is like an hour, or so, depending on where I'm going in the city. If I take the train, it's like 45, 50 minutes into the city, so it's really like it's very accessible if you're in this area. And then also there's spots in like, Hartford or New Haven that I can also, push myself to go to as well. So,
Beautiful. Let me ask you a
yeah.
question, brother. In your opinion, as a stand-up comedian and in the stand-up comedy business and entertainment field, which is the best entertainment field in the world as far as I'm concerned, just love
Yeah.
it. And you get the opportunity to meet people and you actually become real friends. We talked about this before on past podcasts. We became friends instantly as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's like we haven't talked in months. We're talking today on a podcast, and it's like we talk every day. I love that, brother. But I
Yeah.
want to ask you a question, and this is a straight up question. Where would you think, what would be your opinion? Where would be the hottest spot in the country for comedy? Would it be California, New York City, or Austin, Texas?
I mean, my only point of reference at this is New York City. I've been, and I'm not even a New Yorker, but I've only been able to experience comedy in New York, New England area, so I wouldn't be able to know too well. But just the amount, like I would say, New York just has such a huge advantage because you have so many people that are, you know, looking for opportunities that are building their own opportunities, as well as the amount of clubs that you can just bounce around in. There's you have, even in just one borough, like Brooklyn has a ton, Queens has a ton. Manhattan has a ton. It's just like like the Bronx has its scene as well. Like everybody in Staten Island, it's just like you can jump between so many different places, and you can just hit so many different like demographics and all that in such a short amount of space and time that it feels like New York is just such a melting pot that like I mean, I can't compare because I don't know California, LA or Austin or Chicago or Atlanta or any other cities. But I just don't see how you can kind of beat New York in a way. But
It,
I'm biased and I have no point of reference, so I'm
yeah,
sure somebody could come up here and go, "Hey, you're dead wrong," and I'd go, "All right, well, let's find." Well, I'd be happy to find out for myself.
Hey man, you know what? You really can't argue the point because it's very close between those three areas that we mentioned.
Yeah,
Right now, Austin, Texas is a hotbed for comedy. Let's be
yeah,
honest. But L.A. has always been on top of the game, and New York City is
yeah.
always on top of the game. So you're going to have different answers. That's why I just figured I'd ask you what your
Yeah,
opinion was on that. I mean, it could
I,
be it could go either way, but they're all great opportunities, all the
yeah,
different areas.
and I know Kevin Hart's show. I was watching a little bit of that. I haven't tuned in too much, but I watched the first episode and I saw they're doing between it's New York, L.A., and Chicago, and I know Chicago has to be up there because the amount of people that have come out of Chicago is just it's insane. And Chicago definitely deserves a little Oh,
Chicago does deserve a little bit of
it's a,
notoriety and being
yeah.
noted here tonight. And folks, if you got any questions or comments, send them in right now. We're down to about 10 minutes on the podcast, so we're live. If you have any questions or comments, I'm sure Colin would be happy to answer those
Yeah.
questions, or anything. And we're gonna get to Colin's social media before we say goodnight tonight. But we're not going anywhere, folks, and don't you go anywhere, because it's time for Dealing the Names with Colin Pasquarella. I'm sure I screwed that name up, but we're doing the best we can, Colin. You know I love you, man.
Yeah.
Let's deal in the
Oh,
names.
yeah.
So I don't know if you've seen this show before, but we do Deal in the Names. We have 5 names. I'd like you to give me one statement or one word only on each name. The first
Yeah.
name is Adam Ray.
Adam Ray. Uh, insane.
Very good. The second name on Dealing the Names here on Wrestling with Comedy podcast is Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor. Greatest.
Awesome. And number 3 on Dealing the Names here tonight on Wrestling with Comedy We're Live is Funny Charlie Mack.
Funny Charlie Mack. Explosive.
Awesome. And number 4 on Dealing the Names tonight on Wrestling with Comedy is Mark Norman.
Mark Norman. Goofy. Silly. Comedy.
Beautiful. And number 5 on Dealing the Names, the host of the Kill Tony Show, Tony Hinchcliffe.
God.
All right, All right. We're going to delay in this.
Too much. Too absurd.
Too absurd. And we got a question for you. Let's go to the question right now. We're down about 7 minutes, folks. Send in those questions. We got a question from Los Angeles, California for you, Colin. Where do you draw your inspiration from and your material from? What is your style?
I mean, that's such a tough question. I typically draw, just generally just walk through life, just seeing, whatever comes to me. Whatever, I'll be talking to myself when I'm walking or just listening to music or something like that. And an idea just kind of clicks and you just go, that's something. And then just inspiration. I don't know, just being at the comedy club is just like kind of like when you see all these comics that have come through, like that we've seen come through, like you had Charlie Mack, we've had Sam Morril come by, we've had Mark Norman come by. Like
Wow, some big names.
So like I've been able to. That was a lot of like some of those names. Mark like came when we first opened, and definitely just like so cool to see that. They brought out some big names when they first opened, and you got to see a lot of those people. We've seen like Big J, and just kind of being around like live comedy a lot and seeing headliners like that and people that have just like completely like, on Netflix it's great, but when you see it live and you see somebody of like that caliber with like, Big J, Sam, and Dan Soder's come by, those are people that I really admire, and you see that happen and you just go like, I need to work. I need to work. This is something so crazy. They're so good and they're so like great at their craft that's where like the inspiration comes by.
And it's nothing like working side by side, basically, with those pros. I mean, let's be honest. Instead of just watching them on the Netflix,
I wasn't on any of those shows with Sam or Mark or Big J.
Well, what I'm saying is, you were still in the club, brother. You were in the club. I mean, you might not have been sharing the stage, but you were in the club, and that's the thing. But listen, you are there with those big names, and you got such a bright future. I'm happy to have you on the show tonight. I'd like to give you the opportunity, brother, man, to promote anything that you may have coming up, any shows you're booked on, or any social media.
I don't really have a lot at the moment that I'm booked on. But if you want to check out my social media, it's just my last name, which is the hardest part of my name. It's Pasquarella, Pasquarella, comedy. It's just my last name, comedy. I don't post a lot on social media. That's the next step that I'm starting to try and develop ideas for, build that out a little bit more. And just shows come by like sometimes they're every week, and sometimes you're just like sitting there just you got to push for something. You got to really bother people about stuff. So right now I'm at that moment where I got to, kind of push for it a little bit. So I don't have too much in the next coming weeks or so, but definitely keep an eye out. I'll be, sharing those if I'm on any shows, and you can check it out there.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And you're still working with the New York Comedy Club in Stamford, Connecticut. So you're still around comedy. You're seeing comedy shows. So you're still really in the business.
We do, like I said, we do the Monday night open mic every week, which I've been sometimes just been 30 people at an open mic, which you're just like, this is not an open mic. This is a show.
Yeah, man, that's a lot of people.
Sometimes you'll get just a ton of people, and this past week it was 8 people. It was eight comics and 2 people, and you're like, all right, well, that's an open mic.
Hey, man, yeah,
do those every week, and then once a month or so, get on the shows and host and do a 15-minute spot or so. I post those when they happen, and right now we're just hanging out. Gotta push for a little bit more shows, but they'll be coming.
Oh man, of course they'll be coming. I mean, again, you're around the business, and you're always absorb. You're like a sponge. You keep up absorbing more, knowledge, and you just keep on moving forward. And that's really what it comes down to. And being around the business is a big deal. And and to have you on the show tonight has been great. I mean, we have these people here that are listening in and giving the comments. This is part of the reason why Wrestling with Comedy podcast. As far as I'm concerned, I don't want, I know I'm the host and shit, but I'm saying it's one of the upstarts in podcasting, because we don't only cover stand-up comedy, right? We cover also professional wrestling, but we cover all different aspects of both businesses, and we try to inspire people and let people, ask questions. We are going to drop underneath this podcast your link to Instagram. If anybody wants to reach out, so they can come by on a Monday night. You said they have the open mics going on over there.
If you're in the Connecticut area and you want to come to Monday night open mic like that, I'll be hosting, and you'll see a lot of Connecticut's got surprisingly a really fun comedy scene with a lot of good comics that come to the open mic and are they're fun to watch, and you'll see them throughout the state if you're in here, or we all venture into the city, so you'll see them out there too. So it's just it's a great time. I love all the guys that do that come forward, and we make the night fun.
You absolutely do. We're coming down in 2 minutes, brother. We got one more segment we want to hit. That's 230 Treasure Boulevard in Stamford, Connecticut. That's in Stamford, Connecticut, the New York Comedy Club. Come on by. Tell them you seen, Colin. You say hello to Colin and say you seen him on Wrestle with Comedy podcast. Colin, I got a statement I'm going to make. I'd like you to finish it, please. Okay, you ready?
All right.
Okay, here's the statement. In stand-up comedy, I never believed I would.
I don't know. I never believed I would.
If this was a game show, you'd get the.
I know.
That's okay. Hey, if
that's such I'm trying to
never
think
believe
things that I have done, and then which of them's
Yeah, that's good though, bro. Hey man, that's good.
Say,
you're being sincere about your answer.
Yeah, I think the one that comes to mind is I get to host a show for Joe DeRosa. Which was really cool.
That's fucking awesome, dude. Yeah. Joe DeRosa. You hosted a show for Joe DeRosa. You shared the stage with Joe DeRosa. That's big. Yeah. Like I said in the beginning, this is a modest guy. He's one of the best. Colin, brother, I can't wait to see you again. I love you, man. All the respect to you and all the best to you. You keep on being who you are and never change. Joe. Thank you, bro. We'll see you down the road. Until next time, keep it real at all costs. Good night, everybody.